All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back
Good morning.
to Effing with the Ineffable. I am Zoe.
I'm Smokey P.
And we have people in the background if you hear noise or see somebody.
Coming at you from Joe Biden's basement and homeless shelter.
Yeah, we really should film sometime at my new house. It's coming together.
Yeah. You even have water now.
Oh, I know.
You guys are
We're living it up.
You guys are like 19th century.
Yeah, we're slowly progressing toward the future.
Yeah.
Um,
Electricity, and you're gonna have it made.
we only have like 2 things on the wall so far. We're getting there. But yeah. And
Got my Packer shirt on. 2011. It's 10 years ago.
yep. I'm very tired today because my 2-year-old was up in the night. And so I'm just struggling to focus, but I'm going to focus. Do we have any more things we want to chat about?
Focus.
Or should we get right into it?
I don't know. Any news?
We're going on vacation next week.
We are. So we won't be. I assume.
I don't know. Do we want to film an episode while we're there?
Maybe.
I mean, we'll be in the same
Yeah.
place for a week.
We'll be in the same vicinity.
I guess we'll see. I'm not gonna make any promises because I don't really want to edit on my vacation. But we'll be at the beach.
You're always on vacation, babe. This is your favorite vacation. This is your vocation and your vacation combo.
Yeah, that's the thing about being a stay-at-home mom is it's kind of like you're always on vacation, but you're never on vacation.
Because
Like
your work is never done.
Yeah, like even next week.
Hardest job in the world, according to Bill Burr.
Being a mom.
Yeah, he said, yeah, tell that to the coal miners. Tell it to the redheads who are roofing in July.
Being a parent is like really easy. We've talked about this before.
It's a labor of love.
Becoming a parent is really easy, but being a good parent is very difficult.
Is it becoming a parent?
Is easy?
It's easy.
You basically have to have sex once.
Is that right?
And then give birth. Especially if you're a man.
I'm looking forward to that.
Looking forward to it. You've already done it like 7 times.
What? I think I would remember that.
Anyway, this is going a different direction than I expected. Okay.
Good morning. Welcome to Joe Biden's basement and homeless shelter.
No, for real, being a good parent is hard. I was meeting up with some friends this week because I'm finally making friends around here, which is exciting.
I'm looking forward to that myself.
You've been here 5 years and you're still looking to make
coach.
a friend. You do have one good friend.
Coach and I went to trivia this week.
Who's
Trivia was back open. We went to a dog bar. It's literally a bar where dogs are very welcome and dogs are running amok. They're just having fun, chasing each other around.
That does not sound fun to me.
It's actually kind of fun.
I don't really like dogs that much. I guess if they're not like
they taste like chicken. Really, is the thing.
Anyway, no, but I had like we're calling it monthly supper club with my friends, where
nice.
we all get together and make food and bring it to somebody's house and just hang out.
Like a potluck.
Basically, just for moms. And
it's just the moms. The dads don't get to come.
Nope, they have to watch the kids.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's fun.
So that's a bonus.
It like gave me life because I feel like I don't have a lot of friends around here yet. I'm still meeting people, and I've just been so busy. But it's really nice talking to people. But we were saying like consistency is the key to good parenting, and that's also a big challenge.
Consistency is the hobgoblin of small minds.
What? What does that even mean? Did you just make that up?
No, that's an old saying. Being overly consistent just means you're rigid. It doesn't mean you don't have a lot of creativity and flexibility. So it's It's the hobgoblin of small minds.
Are you saying consistency is a bad thing?
I guess I should say rigidity, not consistency is good. Children need consistency. Small children need consistency.
Yeah, like you need, because we were talking about like kids getting up early in the morning.
See, consistency is when you say everybody should be wearing a mask all the time, everywhere.
Well, that's like rigidity.
That's a consistency thing.
It's like the difference between being authoritative and authoritarian. Yeah. Like you want to be authoritative with children and be like,
and you have to be authoritarian with children.
Well, you don't want to just be like, do what I say because I say it, because that's not necessarily like a good philosophy.
This is a good libertarian discussion, because there was mom was showing me this guy, Donnie Deutsch. It's on the Morning Joe.
Okay.
Thing. You know Morning Joe?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a real lib thing.
I've seen about 2 minutes of it in my life.
It's really obnoxious. He flat out said the other day, some people are such idiots that they need to be told what to do.
At least he's saying it.
He just flat out said it.
Because that's like the underlying assumption of all like Democrat and Republican.
It's the authoritarian creed.
Yeah.
You guys are so stupid. You sheep are so dumb. If we left you out in the rain, you would drown.
Yeah.
You need to be shepherded, and you need to be told what to do. And it's not that you're bad, you're just stupid. So they don't hate you, just they have zero respect.
It's just contempt. It's like I'm above you.
Complete contempt for your ability to make any decisions for yourself. So don't even try. Don't let people who are paid to think do the thinking. You guys just keep buying stuff, the stuff that we tell you to buy, and wear those masks.
Well, I think it is important when you're a parent, like we were saying.
To get it back on top.
So like we have a clock. There's a clock that turns green when your kids are like able to get up for the day. Okay.
Oh.
So like I have one. There's also like a really fancy version called the Hatch Baby or something, which is like a lot more. You can program it with your phone and stuff. Wow. We have like an off-brand version, which is a lot cheaper and works just as well for us. It's worked for several years. But somebody was saying like, okay, I have this clock and it turns green at a certain time, but like my daughter doesn't care and she just gets up before it anyway. So like, what do you do?
Whipping.
And I said like, whipping. No, I didn't say whipping, but I said like, I think the answer just with every other like issue is consistency, and saying like, I'm going to put you back in your room every time you get out before the clock turns green.
And after the third time of putting you in your room, the whippings begin.
No, but like, so there's a book, I think my grandpa bought me this book at like a used book sale called, it was like, what was that show, Super Nanny or whatever?
Oh, uh-huh. Yeah.
Like, I was on like, I don't know.
The Super Nanny's Guide to Successful Parenting.
And I actually read it, and like it was mostly stuff that I pretty much already knew just from being a nanny. But her point was like, okay, if your kid is in trouble and you need to sit them, she's a big advocate of like having a timeout chair basically and bringing it with you everywhere, like having a timeout spot. She said like you might have to sit your kid back in that spot 200 times in a day, but eventually they'll realize like I can't get out of this spot until I am ready to behave, or whatever you're like
ready to comply with whatever the direction is.
So like you might have to put your kid back in their room 200 times and say the clock's not green yet, the clock's not green yet, the clock's not green yet, which is extremely tiring for a parent. But if you do it, then eventually they'll get the message that like it's not worth the fight to keep trying to do it, because I know my parent is going to put me back here every time.
Right.
It's when they think like, maybe my mom will give in if I do it enough. That's when they're like, I'll just keep pushing and fighting forever.
I'll see if I can't break this.
Yeah, and that's the frustrating hard thing about being a parent, is that you do have to just be so consistent.
The sound's working, isn't it?
I think so. I was checking it before. You have to be so consistent and be like, you have to be more stubborn than your kid, which is a hard thing to do because kids are really stubborn.
You got a stubborn kid.
My littlest or my oldest?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. That's right. They're all stubborn in their own way, like about different things. They're all stubborn, I think.
All my kids were very compliant. I never asked them to do anything.
Yeah, have no expectations and they'll never let you down.
And really, they did nothing. They've so far they've all done nothing, and that's exactly what I asked them to do. So it's I feel fulfilled as.
Oh, anyway, this is also not really the topic that we wanted to talk about today, but I do think that's an important thing.
Did we have a topic?
I think our topic was about the sociological benefits of going to church, which actually I was thinking about this, or of religiosity, and I was thinking about this during church today. Mm-hmm. And I think I have some good points.
Instead of attending to the gospel and the homily.
Oh my gosh, my kids. We usually don't have to take my kids out of church because they're misbehaving, but we did today.
Really?
Yeah. Just my littlest one.
I'm glad I wasn't there. That would have been embarrassing.
Well, part of it is, like I said, she was up in the night, so she's exhausted.
Yeah, she's crazy.
Although it's not really embarrassing because at the church that we go to, it's not super kid friendly, so a lot of people just end up in the back with their kids.
Yeah.
I actually went back there, and my friend who I met at supper club was like, "Oh hey," and I was like, "Hey," and then we talked after mass and stuff. But
you were tag team wrestling back there with the kids.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, it's
get them in the headlock.
Well, actually, when my oldest was,
you will love Jesus.
When my oldest was probably 18 months to 2 years old, we would just sit in the back every week. Mm-hmm. at a church in Madison, Wisconsin, where we live, because she just you can't expect a kid to
see. Your mom and I were cowards. You know
just didn't bring us.
You know how
mass.
We did.
Yeah.
We just, somebody went to 5:30, somebody went to 8 o'clock,
and nobody brought the kids.
No wrestling involved. Everybody gets to enjoy their church experience. But
speaking of last week, it's not about enjoying it.
But then your kids don't learn.
Yeah.
See, if you don't ask your kids to do anything, can't be surprised when they don't do anything. That's where I'm at.
Anyway, so I was thinking about this during church today about the
well, before we go to that, let's talk about this consistency thing a little bit. Where do you stop being authoritative and allow kids to be their own person?
So I was looking over
is there a time
to see if the book was there, but that book, Love and Logic Magic for Parenting or whatever.
Yeah.
Can't tell if it's over there or not. I think that's a really good book that explains when to lay down the law and when to give. So the point of that book is kind of you want to give your child the most choices possible during the day when they're making choices that don't ultimately really matter one way or the other, aren't going to endanger them one way or the other. So that when you do lay down the law, it's a rare occurrence, but it's something that's important, and they're going to be more likely to listen because they're going to feel more empowered instead of just man, my mom's always telling me what to do, I'm just not going to listen, when you're telling them not to run in the road. Mm-hmm. You want to make those, which is also hard because it's really easy as a parent to just be just do this, don't do that, and always be saying no. Especially when it's it's going to be some effort for me to do something, but ultimately it's not that big of a deal. My kids want to paint a lot. Mm-hmm. And not watercolor paint. Watercolor paint is fine because watercolor paint you can just wipe off the table. But paint with paints that don't wash away. And
Oh, I gave your kids a couple of cans of spray paint, by the way. Some of that nice.
Just to run loose while we film. No,
They said they were gonna learn how to something called tag. They were gonna tag.
But like, so for me, it's like, okay, do I want to say no to that every time? No, but it's also like a huge pain. We have to like cover up the table. We gotta like.
But that's where the work of it comes in, is a lot, setting up an environment where kids have a lot of choices to make, and a lot so that they learn responsible choice making faster.
Yeah.
You let kids make a lot of their choices.
So like,
especially when they're low risk choices.
Like for me, I basically always let my kids pick what they want to wear for the day.
Mm-hmm.
Like my younger one wore something that I don't like. I like them to dress up a little bit for church, and she was definitely not dressed up for church very much today.
Somebody's wearing her Easter dress this morning.
Yeah, my older one dressed up a lot. My younger one didn't dress up at all. But it's like, ultimately, does it really matter what she wears? The one thing that I do care about is like, okay, I don't want you wearing sweatpants and a sweatshirt in 90-degree weather, and I don't want you wearing shorts and a t-shirt in 30-degree weather. So like,
so now when does that change? You've not been there yet, so you don't know when you get to the point where you just say, you are you're old enough now to make your own decisions and to face your own consequences. You wear sweatpants in 90-degree weather, you're gonna deal. You're likely gonna regret it, but that's your choice, your consequence.
Well, and my oldest is only 5. Right. So I'm still at the point where I am bearing most of the consequences of like those kind of decisions.
Right, because they're going to be whining and complaining to you, and wanting you to fix the problem that they've created.
It's not always like really in their control to fix things. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that first of all depends on the kid. It's like, when do you reach maturity? Like, some people are mature
when you can handle freedom responsibly, and whatever freedom that you're. And basically whatever freedom you're granted is completely correspondent with your ability to handle it responsibly. Your freedoms are taken away if you are consistently irresponsible.
Yeah.
I see guys in prison all the time who, the hallmark of their life is irresponsibility. Wasn't my fault. I didn't mean to do it. It just, one thing led to another. I was smoking crack and drinking whiskey, and I ran over that busload of school kids. They were in the way. It wasn't my fault.
So, but I guess my point is like, it's not like once everyone turns 18, it's not like the day before you're 18, you're immature. The day you turn 18, you're like a mature, responsible adult. So like, obviously we as a society, as at least a political governmental structure, have decided you can't enter into contracts when you're a minor, and we usually define being a adult as 18. Mm-hmm. Depends on there's certain states where you can get married younger than 18 or whatever.
Britney Spears is still not considered competent to manage her affairs.
Well, sure, and like with people with special needs, sometimes they're never able to manage their affairs.
That's true. No.
So it depends on the person. But I mean, my goal, like part of my homeschooling goal, and like we keep this in the forefront of our mind, is like, by the time my kids are about 16, we think that they should basically be able to completely be self-directed. Mm-hmm. They should be able to, they really shouldn't
decide for themselves.
I'm not going to be picking curriculum for them. If they want to stay on and do more like high school level work before they go off to like whatever's next, that's their choice. But also, if they want to just go to college when they're 16, if they want to enter the workforce when they're 16, like, I want to equip them to be able to do that as much as possible.
What if they want to get a tattoo?
Well, I mean, I personally don't really have, once you're an adult, I don't really have like an issue with that. I do think like, if somebody's living under my roof, they're living under my rules. And I think that my husband would have more of a problem with that and say, like, if you're living under my roof, you are not allowed to do, like, if you're living under my roof, you're going to go to church with us. That's my rule. Once you're out on your own, you can do whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
But if I pay the bills, it's like you always say, he who pays the fiddler calls the tune. Like, if I'm paying for you, if I'm feeding you and housing you and clothing you, like, you have to follow my rules ultimately. Now, like, obviously,
so when they come to you and say, I need the green to make the scene, I hear what you're saying, but I ain't paying.
Yeah. So I think, like, you know, if my kid, I think probably my kids, and like, I hope that my kids and I just have a good relationship and it's not going to be like a contentious thing. But
yeah,
I mean, as kids get older, I think that there's a certain amount of like pushback and need for freedom and their own responsibility. That's a good thing. And I want them to have that. I don't want them to be like crippled, to always have to like be subservient to what I say.
Yeah,
I want them to go off
and being overly authoritarian kind of breeds a counter action of being overly defiant and reactive to that, to say, I'm sick of being told what to do, don't tell me what to do, you know.
I'll show you.
Put down the chainsaw, you're gonna hurt yourself. Don't tell me what to do.
Yeah, so that's why it is hard to strike a balance. Even with a 2-year-old, they're still gonna be defiant, and like the more you push back, the more they're gonna push back. So that's why it's hard.
It's hard to get that 2-year-old to put down the chainsaw. And she just thinks she can use it correctly.
Well, and like part of what we do is try to set up the environment so that they have as much freedom as possible. We don't really have like screens as an option because that's something that I want to limit. So we don't really keep, like, we do have my daughter has a Kindle so that she can listen to audiobooks, but it has no access to the internet on it. We have like a family, like our family iPad, and our family, like my husband and I both have like a computer, but my kids like don't have access to that stuff. We have all the passwords, and like someday that'll get harder, especially with homeschooling. Like, I do think computers are a great tool for school. I think that opens up a whole world of like information to you. Like, my kids always are like, what was it just the other day? They said, why are apples red? I was like, I don't really know why apples are red. Do you want me to look it up?
Some aren't.
Like, yeah, some aren't. Some are green or yellow or whatever. So then I looked it up on my phone, and they understand that like the internet is a tool for looking up things that you don't know, which is a great thing for homeschoolers, because it's like literally any question you have, we can basically look up, which is awesome. But anyway, I don't know. We try to set up the environment so as much as possible, they have the ability to make their own choices, but we also like expect them to be responsible in certain ways too. Like, my kids have to pick up after themselves, their own toys. And the other day they were having a real struggle with it.
And if they don't, then what?
I was going to say, so we've moved into a new house. For a while now, they haven't had like access to all their toys. So like the first few days we moved in, they were like making a huge mess of all the toys, just dumping them all out, playing with them. And then it was like a huge pain to get them to pick it up. So finally I was like, nope, I'm putting all the toys in the garage. They're all in like separate little bins. It was like, you get one bin a day. And if you can't pick up your bin at the end of the day, you don't get a bin tomorrow. You don't get any toys. Because I'm not picking up after you. I am picking up after you in the sense that I'm cleaning the toilet and doing your dishes and stuff. But like, your toys I make it so easy that it's literally just a square bin that you have to put them back in at the end of the day. I don't care if they're neat or organized or whatever. Put them in the bin. It's not that hard. Even my 2-year-old can do it. So it's like, if you don't do it, then you lose like, I always say, sad choices have sad consequences. If you make the sad choice to not pick up, you're going to have the sad consequence of not having toys tomorrow.
So now, okay, taking a step back to a higher level view, a macro view of this, in what regard is the United States government, or any government per se, to what extent should they be parental about things? Should they be authoritarian about things, and take the responsibility of setting up the environment so that people are safe, and making sure that people don't have access to things that they can hurt themselves with, and that they don't have, hearkening back to episode 1, they don't have gas cans where they're going to be able to burn themselves up or make environmental messes. To what extent is that the government's business? I mean, should the government be modeled as parents to the children of their territory, or should they be more children? Should they treat their children like adults?
Yeah. Are your children 2 years old, or are your children adults?
Right. Are they idiots who need to be told what to do, which means they're incompetent,
yeah,
childlike, even if they're adult people, they're childlike and in need of conservatorship? Or do you need to just, try to keep them informed, try to let people know what's going on, and let them make their own decisions?
I mean, I obviously think the latter. I think, I don't think the government should restrict the general population's access to anything. I think if you abuse your freedom, then you lose your freedom.
Right.
So
and if you make sad choices, you have sad consequences, and hopefully you learn from that. So it's but the only way you learn from that is if the government doesn't decide, it makes me sad to see your sad consequences, now I'm gonna fix you up.
Yeah. So I think a good example is, this isn't the best example, but alcohol. People have pretty much unrestricted access to alcohol, depending on where you live, I guess. There's certain counties and
my wife lets me have some occasionally on weekends.
But people can buy as much alcohol and consume as much as they want. But if they abuse that by hurting another person while they're under the influence, if they, drunk drive,
destroy their liver gradually.
I mean, if you kill yourself, that's your problem. It's not the state's problem.
Drink sterno. Did we talk about that?
No.
Oh my gosh.
But I'm saying that. So I think that model should pretty much be the model for anything. Guns, access to guns. You should pretty much have free, unfettered access to any weapon that you want. But if you abuse your
even atomic bombs,
yeah, but I mean, who's going to be able to afford an atomic bomb? Not me.
If we pool our money,
and me.
If I become some sort of, and I think I have the qualities to pull this off. If I become some sort of charismatic cult leader who gets enough people together to donate money, you can buy an atomic bomb. Send your
but then
checks.
We would have to somehow
send your checks to Smokey P in Joe Biden's basement.
Oh my gosh! I mean, that's kind of like what the government is now, right? We get enough people together, we pool our money, and we buy some bombs.
Atomic bomb, and then we don't have to worry about those feisty Ruskies or those cunning Chinese.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the point of our military.
But then those feisty Ruskies are why do they have a bomb? What are they planning?
Maybe we.
I think we need to be afraid of them.
So yeah, I think
the paranoia goes on.
I think you should have pretty much free, unfettered access to whatever you want. But if you abuse that freedom by hurting somebody else,
the consequence falls on you.
Yeah. That's what I think the government. That's why I'm a minarchist. That's how I would want to set up the government.
Good. Okay.
Okay.
Anyway, so let's move on to today's topic. The topic du jour
So do you want to set this up? Because you kind of brought it up. You said you were
Well, just the
reading about
other
it.
day, I was thinking about it. I was thinking, does religious observance convey a statistically significant effect on health and longevity? And so I looked it up. And
what made you think about that? Just like randomly it popped in?
Well, you know, I had a conversation with somebody a long time ago, and I said, it seems to me that even in the absence of, you know, let's say that you're not that you don't believe in God, but you do believe that you want to live longer. What's the best way to do that?
Yeah.
There's certain of those rules and directions that come from religious groups that do seem to convey that.
Yeah.
They do help people to live longer. One is avoiding things like alcohol, avoiding things like fighting and gambling, and things that are likely to cause conflicts. You know, treating each other with respect.
Treating your body like a temple.
Honoring your father and mother. You know,
that you might have a long life in the land,
that
right?
You might, exactly. Right.
It's the first commandment with a promise, because it says, like,
if you do this,
you will live long in the land.
You will live longer. Yeah.
That's a serious, like, that's a pretty serious claim.
And do you think that is that literally living longer, or is that figuratively living longer, in that you will have family bonds which will allow your family line to persist into the future?
And I think
it might be both.
Yeah, I think it probably doesn't matter either way, because I think one of those is probably true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the one that I think both of them are true.
Yeah.
And I think the demonstration that people live longer if they have religious observance as part of their life. There was an interesting study that was done where they had this retrospective look at people, and what they did was they took all these obituaries. And the obituaries, they read them over, and if there was any mention of any kind of religious observance, like they had an affiliation with some sort of religious thing, or even I think they maybe did some different social things, and then marriage, and then gender. They also studied those and took a look and said, you know, if somebody's obituary mentioned that they had religious observance, how old were they when they died? It's right there. So they did that, and they found that it adds, I think they said like six years to people's lives,
which is a lot.
It's quite a lot, yeah.
On average, yeah.
Yeah, it's as strong an influence as marital status and gender. People who are married live longer.
Yeah.
Or at least it feels like they live longer.
Well, and like I think there's
taking forever.
So many points I want to make on this. I think there's a lot of reasons for that, but I literally want to write this down. Just give me 1 second, because I want to make several points.
Okay.
So hold on. But I think like part of the married people living longer is that we're not supposed to be like solitary people, like individuals. No. We are like communal beings, right? Like, and I think that a big part of that, sorry, give me 1 second, I'll cut this out.
Well, and that's what they say in Genesis, is that people weren't meant to be alone. People who live alone and who are solitary like that tend to not make as good a choices. They don't have, I don't think they have as much enjoyment of life. I don't think they have as much they're not challenged to be their best.
Well, and that's like what Jordan Peterson talks about a lot, is like dialogue with other people is really important for like your sanity. Because when you are like an individual person just like living your life and going down your path, you can like get an idea in your head and kind of like take it way too far to the extreme, and never get never get corrected to get back on the right path from other people. If you're like in a marriage, it's really hard to just like veer off the path completely, because you are with another person traveling in the same direction,
and they're usually bold enough to tell you when you're being crazy.
Yeah, hopefully you're married to somebody who has that. And I think especially when you have kids, like you can't just like be a crazy insane person when you have kids if you're married to somebody else, because they're gonna be like, yeah, you can do whatever, but I don't want you like completely messing up our children.
Yeah, so get out of here.
So I think that's like part of the reason why
it was charming when it was just the two of us, but now you're obnoxious.
And I think like I was gonna bring up, so when I took a philosophy of religion class in college, we talked about the benefits of religion aside from, like heaven, hell, that kind of stuff.
Right.
The temporal, earthly, like tangible benefits of religion.
The measurable.
Yeah.
Things that we can see, not angels dancing on the head of a pin.
So
and not heaven and hell, and not grace and blessing. I mean, those things are immeasurable.
Yeah.
I think they're there, and I think that is what is correlated with the statistics that show that people live longer. But anyway, a longer life is a good thing. Most people want to live as long as they can, as long as they're healthy and
And so we talked in that class about Pascal's wager. Do you know anything about Pascal's wager?
Yeah.
And I think this is like an interesting point.
You bet I do.
So Pascal's wager is basically like, for the person who doesn't believe, because it's a wager, betting. For the person who doesn't,
tough audience here.
For the person who doesn't believe anything, you don't have any stance one way or the other on whether God exists. His basic point was like, whether or not you believe anything one way or the other, you have to live like you either believe that God exists or you don't. If you choose not to act, you're basically believing, like, you're acting as if God does not exist.
Right.
So you have to make a choice one way or the other. So let's weigh the pros and cons. If, like, and this was all from like the basic like Christian perspective.
Right.
If God exists, then the benefit of believing is like eternal happiness in heaven. The benefit, or the drawback to not believing is eternal damnation to hell.
Yeah. Wow.
And if you believe that God exists and he doesn't, then what are the benefits and the drawbacks? It's like we're saying now. You live longer. You get to be part of a church community where people care about you. They're all trying to raise you up and make you the best version of yourself. Another point that I wanted to make is like people who have faith. So I've been watching, I love Norm Macdonald. He's my favorite comedian. And I've been watching his old podcast episodes while I unpack my house. Because I've seen them all before and I don't really have to pay attention, but it's like funny.
Kids listen to those?
No, I do it with headphones on. Definitely not. And I wouldn't like recommend it for a general audience because he's like pretty filthy in that show. But
I love him.
I love him too. He's the best. He is a Christian. Like he talks about being a Christian and believing in God and going to church, like on that show. But he had Larry King on. This was like 10 years ago. And he was
Larry
talking.
King still alive?
I think Larry King died this past year.
Oh, COVID.
I don't know. I could look it up. I could post it in the description below. Anyway, regardless, Larry King is
Let's
like.
check out Larry King's obituary and see if he had a religious.
No, I'll tell you right now. He was like very much an atheist. He thought that there was nothing after you died.
Larry did.
Yeah, he was like.
That's why he had 15 wives.
But he said, like, he was really afraid to die.
Oh,
And he talked about like it was something that just kept him up at night, like being afraid to die. And he said he actually
if
suffered.
You've made a god of yourself and then you face death, it proves that your god is not a legit god.
Well, and like he had a heart attack when he was 50-ish years old. Yeah. And he said it was the most terrifying thing, being in the hospital and being told you're having a heart attack and I don't know if you're gonna make it.
Yeah.
And
hopefully you've got your affairs in order.
Yeah. Well, and he said that experience made him quit smoking and he never wanted to smoke again. He used to smoke like 3 packs a day before that.
It scared the smoke right out.
Yeah. He said he got literally scared straight because First of all, he couldn't smoke while he was in the hospital. So he went through all the withdrawal.
Very similar to my experience with smoking. When I got pneumonia, you probably don't even remember when I smoked.
I was little.
You were, well, it was about 2001, so you would have been about 7 or 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, when Mom and I quit smoking.
Well, I remember Mom smoking. I don't remember you smoking.
Mm-hmm. She smoked a little while after I quit, but I got pneumonia and I was so sick that I was fighting for breath, and then you're fighting for breath and you realize here I am fighting for breath and I'm wanting to do something that's going to destroy my
ability to breathe,
my lungs. Am I one of Johnny Deutsch's idiots who needs to be told what to do, or can I sort this out for myself?
Yeah.
And I sorted it out for myself and said, I'd rather live, So
you didn't
smoking is not that. It's a terrible drug, really.
Yeah.
It's a terrible drug, nicotine. So I just quit. That was it. I had gone through withdrawal, being sick, and just decided not to go back to it after that.
Yeah.
Mom was still smoking, but I just didn't take it up after that. And then Mom quit shortly thereafter.
Yeah.
She's not a Deutsch idiot either.
But I don't know. I thought it was really interesting listening to them talk about being terrified to die, because I was like, for me as a religious person, like I have struggled with like, my faith and whatever in the past, but I've pretty much never been like super terrified to die.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't really have, like, I don't want to die. I like my life and I love like getting to spend time with my kids and my husband.
Mm-hmm.
And so like thinking about dying is kind of sad in the sense that like, man, I would really hate to not see my kids grow up.
Yeah, I'd like to get
things
there.
I want to
Obviously, there's going to come a time where I'm not going to be able to continue to sustain all this. So we'll have to let the shell go, and then I'll have to watch you guys from heaven, and it'll probably be a better view.
But I also just feel like I have a lot more work to do before I get to heaven.
What work you got to do?
On my soul, meaning like I am not ready to go to heaven yet, because I am a sinful person and I have some work I got to do. So that's
Welcome
why I'm like,
to the human race.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not quite ready yet. So anyway, all of that to say, my point is like, there are obvious like from the Pascal Wager point of view, there's obvious drawbacks. So there's obvious benefits to belief, even if you don't believe.
The cost-benefit analysis of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, what are the drawbacks to religious belief if God doesn't exist? You're basically like...
You're foregoing all this good sinful pleasure.
Yeah.
The world, the flesh, and the devil. You're not... Well, I guess there would be no devil. So you can cut that part.
Yeah.
there is still a world in the flesh, apparently. So we're still going to have to, forego some of that. But entirely, no. I'm able to enjoy the world. I'm able to enjoy the flesh, but in moderation.
And I think ultimately his kind of calculation on that front was like the potential benefit. I can't even remember like all the conclusions that he came to, but I think
the payoff is so infinite and the cost is so infinite if there is a God, and the cost and loss, the cost and the benefit within is so narrow.
If God
doesn't exist, you live for 70 years. You enjoy life to a certain extent, but you don't go completely hedonistic and self-absorbed, but maybe you don't even live for 70 years if you go completely hedonistic and self-absorbed.
Maybe you get 76.
That's the point of that.
Yeah. So
is that there's actually a longevity effect. You live longer, so you get longer to enjoy what your self-imposed discipline of life is.
Yeah. So I do think that I think that in the end, even if you don't believe anything, if you have no idea one way or the other whether God exists,
acting as if God exists
is a good bet.
It's a good bet. Yeah.
So that was mainly the points I wanted to make about it. Like I said, I'm pretty tired, so I feel like I could come up with a better discussion.
And what did C.S. Lewis say? He basically kind of had a summary of that too, where he basically said, if God exists, then it's the only thing that you need to think about, and if God doesn't exist, then you don't need to think about anything.
Yeah,
because nothing really matters.
And here's another thing that I'll say from my personal experience. The people that I know who are like genuinely religious and have like a genuine relationship with God or Jesus or whatever, I feel like those people are just happier. And actually, this is another thing that was brought up at the supper club that I went to. So like several people in the supper, this was all Catholic moms. Several of them are converts to the Catholic faith. And one of them said,
those are always the best.
They are. They care about things and like they take it seriously.
They've eaten out of the garbage can.
Yeah.
They
so now they get to feast.
They know when a banquet is a good thing.
Yeah.
Because they've eaten out of the garbage can.
One of them said she grew up in like the UCC church, which is like Universal Congregationalist something. I don't even know. I'll look it up.
It's like anything goes.
It's like a just a Protestant church. Some sort of like, Protestant church. Anyway, she said that like, so she started dating her husband. Her husband had been like a cradle Catholic, but I guess like wasn't really super strong in his faith. And then she was like, well, I'll date you, but like, I'm not going to be Catholic and whatever. So then she was like, I kind of can't. So then she was like, I kind of. The laugh's
on you, lady.
She was like, I kind of came around to the faith in part at the beginning because I realized like, wow, his family, who's Catholic, is like so joyful and so like happy. And like, I want what they have. Which, like, thank God for them, because they were a good example of the faith. Because there's a lot of people who aren't, and I worry that, like, I'm not.
And they were practicing.
I guess so, yeah.
Okay.
And then they both, like, she converted, and he, like, had a reversion, I think, and they're, like, now, like, practicing Catholics.
Good.
Like, and, yeah, and happy about it. They go to your church. So anyway.
The Catholic Church?
Yeah. The one that you go to that I don't go to.
Oh.
but they really like it there. And actually, she said the RCIA, the adult faith formation program there is amazing. And she said the deacon at your church was a UCC. Like he was part of the UCC before he became Catholic.
He's good.
And so she said he's amazing at RCIA because he can just answer stuff from the perspective of like a Protestant person.
Yeah. As a deacon, he's humble, but
I don't really know him that well.
Yeah, but his homilies are awesome, and a lot of times I don't think I just tend to relate more to a lot of the homilies that he gives than our pastor gives. That's as it is. I mean, they're all things to all people, and in order that some might be saved.
But the point I was trying to make was like, I think that the people in my life who are genuinely religious, who are striving to be closer to God, those people are just so much happier than the people who are like living that hedonistic lifestyle, especially like as they get older. Like it's like the Larry King thing of like, I'm terrified to die because there's nothing afterwards. And like, that's like not, I wouldn't want to live with that kind of mentality, you know, of like, this is all there is. Because this world sucks in a lot of ways, especially if you get old and your body's falling apart and like
you're imprisoned in this body and it's tedious.
And you just see like all the horrible things in this world. That's another thing Larry King said. He's like, I've talked to so many religious leaders on my show throughout the years, because he was interviewing people every night for like years and years. And he talked to so many interesting people, but he's like, no one can explain to me in a satisfactory way, which I was like, Larry, this is like a 4th grade argument. But he said, like, you're an 80-year-old man. He said, like, no one can explain to me why, like, God, a good God lets bad things happen. Which, like, the problem of evil is a real. Of course, that's a generations old question. That's a question every person, whether you're of faith or not, has to face, right? And I mean, like, I think I have, like, part of the answer to that is because this world is broken. That's why bad things happen here. But I'm not living for this world. And because
God himself, as a loving father, is authoritative, but not authoritarian.
Exactly. God, I mean, that's ultimately why I had a strengthening of my faith during my philosophy education in school, is because I came to the realization, like, God sets up a system of logic and lets us live according to the consequences of our actions.
I set before you fire and water. You may choose what you wish, but there will be consequences.
And that explains the
choose life that you might live.
Yeah. And obviously, like, so God giving us free will and not intervening with our free will explains human evil. But like for a lot of people, they have the question of like, why natural disasters, why that kind of stuff, why like birth defects and whatever. For me, it's the same answer. It's because God created a system of logic for the universe, and we are bound to live by that system of logic. So like, we have for natural disasters, we have systems of weather that occur. Sometimes those systems go haywire, and the
very people who would say there is no God would say man is destroying the weather system right now. Man is man's choices are sinful and are destroying our climate. And yet
might be true.
And yet they deny the existence of sin.
If that's not a sin, destroying the earth, like, I don't know what is.
That's right.
That's missing the mark, right? That's what sin is. It's missing the mark.
Doink.
So I do think, like, ultimately people who have faith whether they are super strong in that faith or not, are happier people in my experience of it. And I think that like just logically it makes sense. You have like people who care about you in a community, and that's the more you become an adult. Like we were just talking about this in the beginning, you were joking about having one friend, but like as an adult it's hard to make friends.
I got one good friend though.
Yeah,
pretty good.
And what do you need more than that? But I mean, like, truly, it's hard to make friends as an adult.
I got my wife. My wife is my best friend.
Yeah. That's, yeah, sure.
I'm friendly with some of my kids. Some of my kids.
I was thinking about at Myrtle.
Some of my kids are idiots who just need to be told what to do. You're right, Donnie. You are right.
We're all going to be together at Myrtle Beach next week at the beach.
That'll be fun.
I hope so. I hope it's not fighting and chaos.
Refuse. Don't take it
I'm
personally.
just gonna go into the ocean.
Refuse to be pulled into it. I like your saying, not my zoo, not my monkeys. Just let them roll.
I'm just gonna go hang out in the ocean and avoid the.
There you go. Get
into
the rhythm of the waves.
Yeah. Anyway. I hope we made the point well, and that is a benefit of having kids too, is you're not pulled into the drama of other people's lives because you're like I have my own zoo. I have my own monkeys, so I do have to deal with my own problems. I can't be sucked into your drama.
I can't tell you how to run your zoo because man, mine is.
Well, and this gets back to the ultimate point. I love like a quote that Bishop Barron says a lot is like, exit the ego drama and enter the theo drama, right? Like when you're focused on yourself.
I never heard him say it, but that's good.
Oh, I love that. That quote is like burned into my mind and I think about it a lot.
That's yeah.
Exit the ego drama. Because when you're just like thinking about yourself and your problems, which I've been doing too much of that lately, trying to organize my house. I'm like trying to figure out where things are going to go.
It's an excellent mantra just to say ego. Just to say ego. It's like,
because so much of what we are consumed with is our own ego.
It's ego. Just, it's completely
and like
self. It's the self that derives from the world and the flesh.
Yeah.
And that you get this sense of self that's really phony. I mean, from dust you came, and to dust you will return. There's really nothing here.
And the point he makes,
the only thing that you have is the love of God that lives within you, and that's the only thing that's going to persist beyond you.
Yeah.
So don't get too attached to you.
Yeah.
Because you don't really exist.
Yeah. It's like that quote, like the only things that you can take with you are the things that you give away. Like in this world, the only things that you're going to bring with you are like the love and the sacrifice that you gave to other people. But like, if you think about the ego drama of myself, like always focused on myself and my problems and my goals and my whatever, it's so boring. It's boring. It's just like, at the end of the day, you're like, God, I don't want to think about myself anymore. I don't want to think about where I'm going to put all the toys in my house and where I'm going to put the homeschooling books, like, which is like something I've been thinking about because we're like trying to move stuff in, but it's like, God, it's so boring. I want to enter the theo drama, which is like so much more interesting of like God.
And can't you do that by kind of praying constantly?
Yeah.
By doing the things that you need to do.
Yeah.
Doing the good.
Yeah.
But doing the right, but loving the good that existed before this and is going to exist after this, and that you're really not adding much value to. You're just, God is mowing the lawn. You're just walking along with the toy mower behind him.
Yeah.
Well,
and so I read it
pretending that you've got something to do here.
Yeah.
And just you're amusing God. It's like, oh, isn't that cute?
Yeah.
They're trying to be
trying to be a grown up. And like
delightful.
I finished a book.
How delightful my children are.
I finished a book this week. I don't know if I've talked about it on the show before, but it's called A Mother's Rule for Life. I can't remember if I read it several years ago, and it's a very good book. It influenced me a lot in how I try to organize my life, which I think is an important thing to do.
Is it?
Setting up a rule of life.
Following rules.
And that's what that's what she's taught. A rule of life being like, you know, like in a monastery, they have a rule that they live by. So like she gives the example of like Mother Teresa's rule is like, you get up at 4 a.m. and you go to adoration and you go to mass and you go to confession. And like there is a rule.
And you do that out of obligation, or you do that out of love for God.
But that's her point. So that's the point of the book, is like this woman was really overwhelmed with being a stay-at-home mom of like 4 or 5 kids. She was a homeschooler. They had very little money. And she was trying to make,
any job you can do in your pajamas.
No, listen. She was trying to make ends meet, and she was like, how am I supposed to keep my house clean and educate my kids and like feed them all on like this very small budget that we have when things are falling apart and whatever. And she set up a rule of like the five
priorities.
Well, it's your 5 roles as a mom. I have talked about this before, but you're first a prayer, the 5 P's. Prayer, your relationship with God is foremost. You're a person. You have to focus on yourself and your self-development.
A little self-care.
You're a partner, so you have to focus on your relationship with your spouse. You're a parent, and then you're a provider, which is like taking care of your house and all that other stuff, which can get really overwhelming as like a stay-at-home mom. But
what's the priority?
But that's the thing.
In that order?
It's that order. Yeah. Prayer, person, partner, parent, provider.
Right.
That's the order. And so she ordered her life. She didn't make a schedule of like, I'm going to do this every day, but it's like every day, the first thing the first thing in my day I need to schedule is the time that I'm going to pray, the time that I'm going to spend with God. Then I need to focus on like, what do I need to do to be a functional human being? Like for me, working out is very important for my mental health. So I make it a priority to work out every day. I would get more done in my house and have more time to educate my children if I didn't do that. And it bothers me because I get interrupted constantly from my kids when I am working out, but it's important to my mental health to do that. So I do that. Then like making time for your spouse, because it's really easy to not do that. And then making time to like have a good relationship with your kid and form your kids to be responsible adults and saints. And then taking care of your house. Anyway, why did I bring this up? Oh, the whole point was she said, like, if you just like make a schedule for your life, like it's whatever. That's one thing. You're gonna have a better run home, but like you're probably gonna be resenting it and whatever. She was like, eventually I realized I need to dedicate every task I do to God. Every time I fold a towel, I need to fold that towel like I'm doing it for Jesus. Every time I cook a meal, I need to do it as if Jesus was doing it. Every time I get interrupted by my kids and get annoyed with them, I have to act like they are Jesus. And that is how you get like meaning and beauty in your life. And
that's kind of both a mindfulness and a godfulness.
Yeah.
That, you know, you're putting God into everything and you're praying constantly.
Yeah. And that's
your life. Yeah. Your life is just a constant prayer and a constant worship and praise and, you know, glory. There was a great, I don't think Lukey had ever heard that hymn, How Great Thou Art.
It's a great hymn.
Yeah, they sang it at the end of church today, and it's like, do you know what song this is? He's like, this is called How Great Thou Art. And mom knows all the words to those things, and she was singing it, and I sang the one verse that I knew, but just an awesome song.
Yeah, it is an awesome song.
Yeah,
but it's
that's what, and we ought to be singing that in our heart all day long. And that is what brings that joy that you were talking about from true believers. Yeah. They have that joy. They have that so-called blessed assurance that this life as tedious and as difficult as it is worth it. Life is worth it. Life is worth living, and life has a meaning and a value beyond what's apparent.
Yeah. And that's like, that is how you enter the theodrama, right?
Right.
Because it is boring to be like, oh, I have to do another load of laundry. I'm so tired. I just want to go to bed, but I have to do the dishes.
Chop wood, carry water. Chop
Yeah.
wood, carry water. Every day, all day.
But when you think like, okay, I'm doing this because it's my vocation. This is what God has called me to do. And I'm doing it because I'm taking care of the family that God has given me a role to take.
Thank you, God,
like,
for giving me wood and water to work with.
Like we had a water issue in our house this week, and it was really driving me crazy because like we basically had like no water coming out of our faucets for a while. And I was like so frustrated, and I was thinking about it all the time. That's another thing of like the ego drama. And finally I was just like, every time I turned on the water, it would bother me, but I would say like, thank you, God, that I have running water in my house that's clean water, because I know there's a lot of people in the world who don't have that.
Mm-hmm.
And like, just because it's annoying and it's not working perfectly every time, and like we had a plumber come and fix it and now it's working, thank God. But like, I don't know, it's just like I have so much perspective and so much like, I have somebody to be grateful for.
Gratitude.
Somebody to be grateful to. And that's huge.
I think that attitude of gratitude is a big part of what really helps people to live longer too.
Yeah.
Is if you value something, if you value your life and you value your everyday experience, you're much more likely to take care of it than if you just feel like, oh, all this is just for me, and it's at my whim and my initiative, and so if I decide it's not worthwhile, I can just throw it away. It's like, your life is not disposable. Your life is not disposable. Your life goes on forever, whether you like it to or not.
Yeah.
There's an eternity.
Yeah.
And you get to decide, smoking or non-smoking.
Yeah. And we do have,
it's not, you can't throw it away.
Yeah.
You can't throw it away. It exists now, and it will exist for eternity. The question is, what will that eternity be?
Yeah, I think that's another thing C.S. Lewis talks about, is like, you can't return the ticket or whatever.
Right.
Like, you have to take the ride.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think this was
but you get to choose which way the train is going, and you can switch trains in the midst of it. That's the great thing.
Yeah.
Or the terrifying thing is you can give up that blessed assurance too.
Yeah.
You can throw that grace away.
It's a constant struggle. It's something you have to always work at.
Yeah.
It's being consistent, like we were talking about at the very beginning.
Constant, beautiful struggle too.
Yeah.
To love God.
I think
keep finding ways to love God and to love others.
The takeaway
Father
from this
Dan
episode,
always used to say, God, others, me. I'm number 3.
I think about that a lot.
It's a great little rule.
Yeah.
That's a great little rule. It keeps you in mind. It's kind of like the serenity prayer.
Yeah.
Love that serenity prayer.
I think the takeaway from this episode is consistency in parenting and consistency in faith.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, this was a good discussion. I think
it turned out to be.
I'm getting really hungry. So.
Even though you were exhausted, now you're perked up. Now you're fired up. You got the joy
down in my heart.
Where?
Down in my heart. All right. Thank you for joining us. Maybe we'll make a beach episode next week.
Maybe.
I don't know. We'll see.
Get to see me in my thong.
Sandals.
thong sandals.
Yeah.
We watched a Curb Your Enthusiasm, and Larry went to the beach and he saw his therapist in a thong, and he's like, I gotta quit that therapist.
Oh my gosh.
Larry's funny.
He is funny.
Anyway.
All right. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Hopefully we didn't scar you too much with our mental images of thongs.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Maybe I'll cut it out.
I couldn't help but mess it up. It was so beautiful. Sublime, 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 ridiculous.
All right.
Sorry. That's just where my brain goes.
All right. Thanks, everyone. And we will talk to you soon.
God bless you. Pray without ceasing.
Bye.